Hey everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming in on this middle of the week video here. So we're going to cover a couple of things here. We're going to take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin miners today. We'll also take a look at the possibility of miners being shut off when we get closer to the halving event, at what rates for the network hash rate is going to have to be priced and everything else, and different terahashes for the miners, and take a look at which ones are possibly going to be turning off at that point. Okay, we'll also take a look at the overall network hash rate comparison to the Bitcoin miners over the December numbers, to see if they grew or didn't grow as much as the network hash rate and other metrics as well. And we'll also take a look at the miners themselves, their hash rate growth over the last 12 months, Bitcoin growth over the last 12 months, all that stuff. So we're going to go through that. We do have a little correction to provide you guys also for Terawulf. We'll get into that probably in the beginning of the video here, but that is kind of what we got, okay? So as always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice, for entertainment only. Please do your own research, and I'm investing in the following coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe. Definitely helps me out here. And let me get the stuff ready here. Okay, so let's get into really quick what's going on with the miners here. And we'll talk about that, and then we'll get into the other stuff. So obviously Bitcoin's down here a little bit today. It was down, not too bad. It was down 0.91%. Miners were down for the most part, like single digits. Some were actually up today, which was kind of surprising. But Bitcoin finished out the day at 42,737. We're down a little bit in the new day right now, but the ones that were kind of up to date were Cores was up 2.54%, DigiHost was up 1.33%, DMG was up 1.52%, then we got Stronghold being up 0.19%. So I mean, you can see the rest of the miners here were pretty much flat, not flat, but down just a little bit. So it wasn't a bad day, and we're just seeing a continuation of this. And I think it's just we're kind of taking a breather with the miners. They've been up huge last year. Some of them were up 300, 400, 500, 600%, 700%. Some of them, Core was even up above 1,000%. So we're having a little bit of pullback here, which I think is healthy. Because if we look at some of the individual charts, you'll just take Bitfarms here. And if we throw in the other metrics or the other lines here, we can see that the RSI was getting pretty high on the daily. We're coming back down on that one, also on the weekly. We were kind of high as well on the RSI, and now we're coming back down. So I think those are all good things there, to get a little bit of pullback, and then we'll have possibly a rally come the halving event. After the halving event, we'll start going back up. But right now, I think it's just a dollar cost averaging opportunity and buying the dips if you can, and getting ready for when we do actually start going back up, which would be sometime after the halving event. Okay, so that is all I wanted to talk about that. Also, since we're going to be talking about the network hash rate here coming up, I wanted to take a look at this one here. So this is the total hash rate for Bitcoin over the, well, pretty much from the beginning of last year to now. And you can see where we started off roughly at about 259 exahash on the network hash rate, and we peaked here just recently at 526 exahash. This was on January 13th, and we've kind of come down here a little bit on the 30-day average to 519, and that might be mainly because of miners being shut down in some of the colder areas in Texas and things like that, where they are asking, obviously, people to save energy and things like that. So I think miners are possibly shutting off there. If you look at the one-day average, you can see that kind of quite a big spike here. We were at 630 exahash at one point. That was a new high for us. And then we dipped back down here to 465 exahash, right? So a pretty strong jump from the top, or I guess you could say leg down from the top down to the bottom here. And I think that's contributable to the weather that we're having right now. It's just we're having a pretty cold spell here in North America in some spots, and that's just contributable to that. But at least you can see how the network hash rate has played out over this period. Okay, so that's it for that one. Let's take a look at really quick an update here to Terahash, and we'll get back into this other one here. So yesterday I misspoke, and thank you to Patrick from Terawulf. He pointed this out to me when I pointed out the 10.3 million here in interest expenses paid in Q3. He wanted us to preface this, that this includes amortization of debt discount, which accounts for Black-Scholes warrant value, not cash interest. Annual cash interest expense is simply the 11.5% times 146 million, which is 16.79 million or 4.2 million per quarter, which will decrease quarterly as they continue to repay debt. We disclose cash interest at the bottom of the consolidated statement of cash flows, page 9. On the 10Q for Q3 numbers from end of September. And then the reason cash interest is 15.542 for 9 months ended 9/30/2023. It includes 3 months of accrued interest from 4Q 2022 paid in 1Q 2023 along with the 8 months of interest paid in 2023. Okay, so it's not as bad as I thought it was. It's definitely a lot better than what we're seeing here. And with them paying down the debt, I think it's going to be obviously a good thing as well. So we'll see how that all progresses going forward. So thank you again, Patrick, from Terawulf on that one. And let's get back into this one over here. So looking at this here, this is a little table that I like to use. So looking at profitability of miners potentially, right? Some of the ones that, and we have a list here basically going from 80 terahash all the way up to 240 terahash here. And then we're using electricity cost of 4.5 cents. We can adjust that as well. Network hash rate, I have it at 500 right now, but we'll increase that to, we might be at, on the 30-day average, come close to the halving, we might be like at, let's just say 600 exahash at that point. And you can see how that impacts some of the older miners here, especially the 80 terahash miners, the 90, and then a little bit of the 100 terahash also. And then I have the watts on these at around 2950. It's kind of like the average. It might be a little bit higher than that. It might be a little bit lower, but we can also play around with that number a little bit. But you can see here that the 80 terahash miner, which I think most of the miners don't have any of these. I think they have some 85 terahash miners, some of them. And we covered that in other videos. But those would need Bitcoin at that point, and this is at the halving with the block reward being at 450. They would need Bitcoin at around 54,000 roughly to be just slightly profitable at 5 cents. The 90 terahash would need Bitcoin at 48,000 to be profitable just at 5 cents. And then the 100 terahash miners would need Bitcoin at 43,000, which is kind of where we are at right now. So those would be just slightly profitable. But check this out, how this all works out. If we jump this back up to where we are right now, you can see that at 44,000, they're making $3.41 right now. Some of the other ones are what they're making at that point as well. So that goes to show how things change just simply overnight, where miners are profitable, next day they aren't profitable, right? And then if we also include electricity in this, increased electricity price for this, you can see how that impacts them as well. So by showing you guys this, I hope you guys understand that we may see some miners being unplugged after the halving event, depending on where Bitcoin price is at. Because if somebody's paying 6 cents per electricity, which for the most part, I think it's maybe a little high, especially for some of the older miners, or for the big boys, the big miners, they're more closer to like 5 cents, 4.5 cents, 5.5 cents at most. Even at 5.5 cents, they are basically, the 80 terahash miners will be profitable at 7 cents, at 66,000, and then the 90 terahash at 58,000, and then the 100 terahash at basically 52,000 at that point. So it really depends on where Bitcoin goes. Now, this does not take into account any of the Bitcoin network transaction fees that we've been seeing recently. That would obviously offset this a little bit and make it a little bit more profitable, whereby you can actually see this. So I think some of the miners, we don't know which ones they are, because the miners that I cover at least are only like 23% of the total network hash rate out there as of December numbers. And we don't know the rest of the numbers, the rest of the 77% of the miners that are out there that are non-disclosed, non-public, private, what those are operating at, right? If they're mining at home or anything like that, I mean, you're going to be paying at 10 cents for home, at least on average here in the United States, might be a little bit higher than that. But you can see at that point, a lot of these miners would not be profitable, and that would need Bitcoin to be at a much higher cost. So I think we will see Bitcoin transaction, or Bitcoin network itself, hash rate, decrease after the halving event based on this, what I'm seeing here at that point. But we'll have to see how much of that gets unplugged. Because right now, being at where we are, like I said, everything's pretty much profitable here. Right around 5.5 cents. Put that back up to 900 BTC reward. You can see everything's in the green. But overnight, that's going to change for a lot of miners that are out there. And then we're going to get, obviously, some of the older miners get unplugged at that time. Okay? Just wanted to point that out to you guys. I like using this table as well. This kind of helps me out to understand which miners are possibly going to be getting unplugged. Then we can look at the miners and see which miners still have some of the older miners that might be affected by this, obviously. And that's why we really want the miners to grow in this phase towards, as we get closer to the halving event, we really want them to grow, get newer machines, more efficient machines, and things like that. Okay, so that is it for that one. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin transactions, or not the transaction, hash rate. And I believe that is this one. Yep. Okay. So on this one, we're just looking to see what the network what the network hash rate has been over the last basically 2 years here, and where have the miners been placing on that, the ones that we track here at least. So you can see here in December, the network hash rate averages about 505 exahash, and the miners were at 120 exahash. That coincides with them being at 23.8% of the network hash rate right there. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. Maybe I can zoom this in a little bit more, make it a little bit more bigger for you guys. There we go. So that's the percentage of the network hash rate that the miners that I track have right now, 23.8%. Okay, and that's been coming down here from a peak that we saw in July of last year, where they peaked at 26.9. But ever since then, we're obviously seeing possibly other miners that we don't track that are getting some of the newer machines plugged in potentially at that in these latest few months. Going forward, we're seeing that our miners are not keeping up with that. Okay, so they're definitely getting a lower percentage of the network hash rate. Looking over here, month-over-month public Bitcoin hash rate increase, decrease versus the Bitcoin network hash rate increase, decrease. So the Bitcoin network hash rate increased by 31 exahash, while our miners that we track only increased by about 2.9 exahash on that one, okay? Going down here, month-over-month hash rate increase and decrease for the month. We can see that the miners only increased by 2.5% of their hash rate collectively. And then in November, we had a nice one, 9.6, but definitely a decrease here. We might start seeing a little bit more increase here as we get into, well, further into this year, because we know we have a lot of orders on the books by the miners that are going to be growing to, 16, 20, 30 exahash going forward. So we should start seeing more increases, I think, this year than we did possibly last year a little bit. We saw some months that were pretty good, but I think we're going to see a little bit more because of the nature of just larger hash rates that they're ordering. Okay, so that's that one. And then this one chart looks at the Bitcoin miners percentage of Bitcoin network hash rate. Yellow equals current month, teal equals previous month. So we can see here, if we see a teal sticking out, we can see that the miner actually decreased their percentage of the network hash rate. And we can see here that Argo was down. BitDigital was up a little bit here to 0.055 compared to the 0.053 that they had. BitDeer is down. You can see that Bitfarms is down as well. Cypher is down. CleanSpark is down. Core is one of the ones that's up right now, along with DigiHost being up just slightly here, looks like. Then you got DMG being down, High being down, also Hut 8 being down, Iris being down, Marathon being down again. Well, last month they were up quite big, but this month they're down a little bit. Lawson is down. We got Riot being down, Sphere being down, Stronghold being down, and Terawulf being down. So they are losing market share to the network hash rate overall. Okay. So that is it for that one. So nice and sweet. And let's take a look at the hash rate that the miners have done themselves over the last 12 months, roughly. We're going to look at some things here. So first one we're going to look at is the 12 months percentage hash rate growth. We can see here that based on where they were 12 months ago, where they are now, we can see how much they've grown. And top one out here came in as Iris, 279% increase in the last 12 months from 12 months ago. Then we would have possibly Sphere. Sphere we know was at like 100 petahash. They increased, or maybe a little higher than that, but they increased that nicely here. And then we got Marathon being up 252%, followed by Terawulf up 244%, Cypher up 231% from 12 months ago, and then we got Hut 8 up 187%. Obviously, Hut 8 has merged with USBTC. They gave a pretty big boost there as well. And then you can see the other numbers for everybody else here. Then we look at the 12-month hash rate difference. How much hash rate did they actually increase? All right. So you can see Marathon takes the cake out of all these guys. They increased 17.6 exahash. The next best would be BitDeer. BitDeer really became a public miner here in, what was it, April, I think. April, March of last year. So they went basically from 0 in December of the year prior to now being 6.7. So that's why you're seeing the big growth there. Followed by, who else do I have here? That's higher. Hut 8, 4.685, right? That's because they increased through USBTC merger. And then you got Cypher up 4.363, followed by Iris being up 4.2 exahash, CleanSpark up 3.8 exahash, Terawulf up 3.5, and so on on that one. Okay, and lifetime hash rate growth. So now we're looking at this is pretty much for 2 years worth of data that we have here. We can see here that still Sphere came in number 1.2 or 1,200% increase. Like I said, they were at 100 petahash and they went to basically 1.2 exahash. So that's why they're seeing that huge growth there. There's a reason for it, obviously. followed by Marathon up 610%, Iris up 608%. Then we would have Bit Digital up 451%, CleanSpark up 390%, and then we have Terawulf at 286%, and then Riot 258%, and you can see everybody else below that. And the next chart we're going to look at is year-over-year BTC mine difference. So what did they mine a year ago in December? What did they mine in December of this year? How much did that increase or decrease from where they were prior? Okay, on this one, we can see here that Marathon obviously has done the best, 1,325 Bitcoin increase over last year for December, followed by, we'd have Bitdeer, 434. And again, Bitdeer wasn't public at that time, so their number was at 0. That's why they're having that number there. That should stabilize or decrease as we get into the months where we actually have them covered at that point. Okay, followed by, who else would be here? Hut, 292. Like I said, that's because of the US-BTC merger. You got Iris up 276, followed by CleanSpark 256, Cypher up 240, then Stronghold up 207. Stronghold also, we didn't have their numbers for it until probably, I think I started covering them around April or May again, when they started providing their production updates. And then Terawulf 209, as we already covered that one. The one that was down was Core. Core was down 258 Bitcoin, and Bitfarms was down 50% and 50 Bitcoin, and DMG was down 33, and Riot was down actually 40 Bitcoin less from last year. All right, going over here, 12-month average BTC per exahash efficiency. So all we're doing here is taking the 12-month average hash rate and the 12-month average BTC mined for that period of time frame, and we're calculating this to get the efficiency for the year, basically. And Hive came in at number 1 with 80.34 BTC per exahash efficiency. And then the next spot would be here, probably, looks like Cypher. If I'm looking at this right, there's a lot of numbers that are pretty close to each other. And Cypher would be at 75.84, followed by possibly Bitfarms at 74.9, or no, then would be CleanSpark at 75.36, followed by DigiHost at 75.16, and then we would go to Bitfarms at 74.96, followed by Iris at 73.72, and then Core at 73.54. And then we got, what do we got here? Some of the big guys, Marathon was at 63.86. They've curtailed quite a bit throughout the year, so that's the reason why they're down below that. And then let's see, who else are the big guys here? Hut 8, 48.13, right? They had problems with their facilities. They had one facility that was down for a long time. They had issues with their miners as well. So they were operating at like 60%, something like 67% from memory. Who else do I have here? Riot down at 50.77, and that's because they curtail a lot, but they also get the power credits for it. So there's reasons for that one. But that's basically it. So kind of nice to take a look at how they have basically transformed over the last year from the year prior, looking at those things. Have they improved? Have they not improved? It's always fun to take a look at these things, but that is basically it. Yeah, and I think we'll leave it at that point right now. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Obviously, we didn't have any news for today as far as miners are concerned. It's just been a kind of a slow day today with miners going down. I did attend a space, X Space or Twitter Spaces event today at 5 o'clock that lasted about 2 hours. That was a lot of fun. That was hosted by Bitcoin mining guy. And definitely had a fun there. Anthony Power joined us as well. We had other guys, Ryan, we had Penny Ether join us. A lot of guys, I'm missing some guys there, but it was a fun conversation that we had there. Definitely worth checking out. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you guys can find the link to it there. And we'll see if we can do another one of those coming down the road here. And maybe we'll talk about different topics. This time around, I think we covered profitability. How do you value the companies and things like that, which is kind of interesting discussion there. So thank you for getting that set up. That was fun. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. Other than that, spreadsheets are available to my Patreon members as always. We still have membership available at the $8 range there, and that's giving you access to this Discord channel as well. Having a lot of great conversations there. Also, sometimes a little bit heated debates between all the people there. Some are bears, some are bulls, and it's fascinating. It's just you get a lot of different viewpoints, which is fantastic. That's good, but that is it. Right? We'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll get into some other metrics maybe tomorrow as well, but that is it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you guys in the next one.